It's arguing. Good morning. It is Friday. Welcome to the Friday Grief Chat. I'm Jill.
I'm Deb, and it is 12 noon straight up here in East Central, very wet Illinois. In
And
fact, our creek is up more than I've seen it in an entire year.
oh my goodness, I'm so glad for you.
I am too. I mean, I know there's flood warnings, so don't go on those low pavement roads driving, but it is great for the farmers around here.
Absolutely. And it's been drought for a while. You guys need the rain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. It's been wonderfully foggy. Some people don't like to drive in it. As long as I can turn on brights and lights, we're good. And yeah,
Yes. And
yeah,
we're actually starting to warm up. We've been in Southern California. We've been in the 50s and really wet this week. San
yeah,
Diego had massive flooding. Where people need to learn that if you see water and can't see bottom, you just don't freaking drive into it. How hard is
absolutely.
that, people?
It's
Because you'll
very
be leaving your
difficult.
car,
Yeah,
if
I
not yourself.
we get
Yeah.
that under viaducts here, and even the country roads. I mean,
Just don't
there's
drive
been
into it
people,
if you can't see
don't.
it.
Don't. If you can't see the bottom, don't do it.
Arizona
So,
actually will charge you for your own rescue if you do it.
oh, that's
Yeah. So
bad.
today we're up to 72. We're going to be warm for a few days before our next big storm.
Mm.
It's just I was outside in the sun a few minutes ago, like, oh yeah, bring on the vitamin D,
Sun.
please.
Sun?
Right?
What's
Sun. Actually, it's for
what's
Southern
that?
Californians not to have sun is just a very odd thing. Plus, we had the occasional earthquake. We've had 14 of
Yes,
them.
you have.
We've had 14
Oh, in how long?
since the one that was a 4.5 was 5 miles from our house on Thursday night. The San Andreas and the San Gorgonio faults come together right near
No,
us,
no,
and
no,
they're the
no, no,
two
no.
biggest, baddest fault lines, and they're chattering right now. So we're just hoping they're
That's
chattering as they settle, not chattering as they're talking about what else they can do.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Welcome to Southern California.
Welcome to Southern California. A lot of my friends said, they can handle the rain as long as the temperature has been above freezing, and it has. It's been in the low 40s, and I'm grateful for that.
So none
Um,
of that winter mix nonsense.
that was last week, and I'll tell you, Daryl binge watched Bones for 13 hours.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, he got up because there's body functions and there's eating, but from 11, he never does that. And that's probably because of the cold. You even sleep so tight because it's so penetrating that
And this is
we
why
you
we
wake
live
up
in Southern
hurting.
California.
Oh my gosh. Well, you had something you wanted to talk about, and then I found this grief study, the paradoxical grief of anticipated sudden death, and I thought we would do both. Is that
I think they'd weave together well.
all right?
Good
Why don't
morning,
you
Steve.
start?
It,
Hi, Steve.
we've had a extended family death recently out here.
Good.
Not mine, but someone else in the family's extended family. And I was reminded once again how much when even someone who's an anticipated death, someone an advanced age, right,
Yeah.
and who's made all the arrangements, they got it all done. The family still can't get along, still can't agree on arrangements. Some of them still can't, quite get to where the service needs to be. So they'd really like it to be someplace else for their convenience. And they'd really like to have other people take care of it. And I'm not slamming anyone. It's a reminder that, you think if you know someone where someone lives and you're going to have the service there, that we need to be really aware that it's not our convenience. It is the primary griever's convenience. And if the person has selected plans of their own, then if you're going to show up, you probably need to think about showing up where they wanted you to show up, not where you think it would be convenient for you to show up. And not to expect other people who are making all the things happen to then go out of their way to make things happen in a way that you want. If you want to have your own little thing, you can go do it on the side.
You can. And I can't tell you how many people that I know, and even just recently, they are not, even though their parent or whatever had picked XYZ and they showed up there, it wasn't good for them, the griever. And I have been offering, when you're ready, we can do another kind of a memorial service to honor XYZ person. Easily, we'll do that. And, you know, but sometimes people still make these horrible fusses. The family members, they can't agree, just like you said. And like, seriously, where are your priorities?
If you can't agree, then maybe the idea, my solution when I'm working with someone is then quietly, ever so quietly, make your presence known and exit stage right.
Yep.
You don't need to make this loss and this whatever recognition about your needs, because we only die once and we get that one service. And if this is what they wanted for their service, then we need to find a way to be respectful.
You know, a relative, I'm not going to say whom, but a relative at a funeral where both that relative and Daryl were the primary grievers. They were close. And I leaned in to hug one person because I was, you know, when you're together, and I didn't hug the other person because I didn't feel the vibe of inviting.
Right.
And this person threw a fit at the back of the church about me and at the cemetery. And I got nothing. I just
said, do is say I'd like a hug too.
You know, no, that wasn't said. I mean, and by this time I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. I'm flabbergasted that they couldn't like yell at me later, but no, they're finally, I was pissy and they weren't, I don't know if they were at the lunch or not, but I remember saying, because I heard that she was saying, well, that person really isn't your friend, meaning me. And I said, I don't know why she's upset. I am not her friend. At this point, I am not.
She took that.
You know, and they did everything so that I could not participate. But the funeral people knew me and the minister knew me. So I got to say goodbye and arrange.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It was just whatever.
With the one that we're dealing with, I flipped it over to humor within about 24 hours and started sort of gently poking fun at what was going on and the demands being made and how to live with those, and finally flipped it saying, you know, when you were texting me and saying you were seeing these symptoms happening and I said it's going to be tonight, and you said the hospice said it's going to be several days, and I said nope, it's going to be tonight, and it was that night. I said, I just got to say, by text message, I was righter.
Oh, competing when somebody's dying. That is so weird and funny.
It
Well,
is funny. And I finally
not
said, would you please just tell people to refer to chapter 3 in my book? It will tell you what you're seeing. I wrote the book on it. You just got to look it up.
ah,
And I was
yes,
right.
yes,
But the humor
yes.
was there,
The
right?
sexiest words ever that Daryl said to me, you were right. And I go, oh, will you say that again? So,
Oh, we
yeah,
are frozenated. I'm
yes.
going to switch our internet while you are talking.
Oh,
'Cause
sure. Steve, you're absolutely right. The toxic environment it creates isn't your health work or isn't your health risk or peace of mind. And Steve, I have avoided many more things in the last 3 years because it's just not worth it to me. It doesn't mean the people aren't worth it, but me showing up is not worth the what do I want to say? The stress it can cause others and the stress that it causes me. And people say that's setting up boundary lines, and I say it's self-care.
and
That's what
boundaries
I'm
are
calling it.
self-care.
Yes,
Boundaries are 100% self-care, and they reduce aggravation, and they reduce all the stress, and they reduce anger
right,
afterward because
right,
you're not buying into whatever's going on. And that's
right.
why I wanted to bring this up today, because I think it's a good reminder, because this is something that happens more often than not
Yes,
when services are being planned, is someone's not happy with them. How do you handle it? You put the boundaries in, you get honest about what you're willing to do and not willing to do, but you don't engage in conflict. You just step sideways.
and to, at least I have found to regulate my own emotion, I pick my battles. If I
Right.
can get around those battles, sometimes it means if there's step family, depending on who's the primary parent, maybe you're just on opposite sides of the room,
Mm-hmm.
and people can, people can work like that. Maybe it's assigning tasks and just be very task oriented. Maybe it's, and I know people that don't even say, I'll have my own funeral, which is perfectly okay.
You can have your own funeral.
You can have your own, if it's,
I've done that with clients.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Yeah, or maybe it wouldn't be a funeral, it would be a memorial, but
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, I mean, it's if mom's cremated, if the stepmom, well, usually, the step family might not want to be part of a funeral because they didn't have a good relationship with whomever died. So, I mean, it could
And you
be
can
a,
create moments for it. You can do it
yes,
with the laying of a headstone, if there's a headstone. You can
yes,
do it on the anniversary. You can do it on a birthday.
yeah.
You can do all kinds of things and make it your own ritual and make it healthy and make it for you and for the memories that you carry of that person who died. You don't have to involve the conflictual folks.
No, no. And in this day and age where so many people are estranged, just do your own thing. I think COVID really emphasized you can do it differently. Stop thinking you have to do it the same way all the time, because there will be times when that's not possible.
And you don't have to be in a hurry. COVID taught us we can wait.
Yes.
Back in the day, we waited for funerals if it was cold out because you couldn't dig the hard
Minnesotans.
ground, right?
Yes, you couldn't.
For
You
my
had to wait
idiot
for
great uncles.
spring.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of ways we can do things differently. I was at probate court at 8 o'clock this morning doing yet more paperwork, and the warring families are lining up in the hallways, and they haven't gotten along for years. And the only reason they're they're together is because they're fighting over someone's house or property or bank account.
Right.
The conflict doesn't have to be. You can remove yourself from the conflict and
Mhm.
go do your own service and remember them the way you want to.
However, whoever is designated power of attorney, warring people, you don't have.
You're in
Well,
for it.
let's put it this way: unless you take them to court
Mhm.
because you have the money to say they are not capable, so you have to
Mhm.
prove incompetency.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All of it. Probate court
All
is,
of
if
it.
you ever want a fascinating place to hang out, folks, and see how well people do not get along in families,
Go to probate court.
go to probate court, because people
Mhm.
die the way they live and they grieve the way they live and they fight before and after. So
Mhm.
if you can keep your peace and your chill and your humor and give yourself some grace and remove yourself to the best of your ability, then you will do much better with this loss. Now, Deb, talk about this article that you found. And
Oh,
we
this
should put in the show
article.
notes.
Oh, okay. It is called, the article's called The Paradoxical Grief of Anticipated Sudden Death. And it's like how, let's say you're waiting for a relative to die, right? Like,
Mhm.
as you were saying, and you're sort of like, when are they going to die? When are they going to die? And then they die, and you're like blown out of the water.
Oh my God, they
Can you
died.
believe- Exactly. There is, let's see, yeah, because they would gave an example of that from their own life, and then, but when the death happened, they're like, what just happened? It's it,
It's a
I'm
common
seeing this.
phenomenon.
It is. And the other thing is, let's say that was from an illness and you knew the illness was going to kill them. They were going to die from the illness, whether it's cancer, whether it's this, whether it's leukemia, and then they die. But how about there are people who, and I'm 68, and there are people older than me that still have one or both parents.
Right.
And then they die. The parents die. And it's like they're 100 years old and the parent dies. And it still is like, bam.
How could
It's,
that be? They were
how
going to
could
live
that
forever because
be?
they were seeming to live forever. They got
Yes, yes.
that far.
You just don't. Then there's another exhibit. This is a tough one. When someone you love has an addiction and you're constantly waiting for that call of
And
an
you know it's
overdose,
coming.
and you know it's coming, and when it comes, it just knocks the wind out of you for like years. It is, and then there's the guilt
That's the
of
thing I was going to
even
mention.
anticipating their death. Like, what a horrible person am
And
I
being
for?
relieved that the call finally came.
Yes, it is so hard to just, you know, I'm going to throw this in, not as a religious thing, but forgiveness of self.
Mm-hmm.
And you've never done this before. Have you ever, you know, and it's specific. Let's say you have two children that die from addiction, right?
Which is
Or
not
two
uncommon
parents.
because addictions runs in family. Mm-hmm.
And uh, you still have never done it before. And so you, at some point, that forgiveness of self for one or both children or one or both parents or one or both, whoever has the addiction, there's acceptance of you did the best in the moment, even when you feel like you wondered if you could do more.
And there's the acknowledgement that you can't stop someone,
Exactly.
no matter the age, from picking something up and using it. We had a child who had a serious addiction, put them through rehab a couple times. I had every coroner's office on speed dial because there were
right.
times where, there's a school match that they were really playing in, and then they just didn't come home. And you just knew. Now, fortunately, that child survived and is now clean and sober, but it was years of someday that call's going to come, and I just can't be as emotionally connected as I used to be because I have to protect my heart while still worrying literally almost to death about my kid. And you have to give yourself the permission to say, there's only so much any of us can do, and to accept it if that call does come eventually.
You just, it's like this common phenomena between all, and we saw it mostly when I worked in detox and rehab, how there was the parents, like they would come into where we did where they usually people were admitted, and we would do an evaluation, and the parents would come in. They'd all say the same thing in different bodies. It was just heart-wrenching.
And
go ahead.
And that is that anticipated grief.
Excuse me.
You're doing anticipatory grief the whole time someone is in an addiction process. And then if that call comes, it's like, I knew it was coming, but I can't believe it got here. I have heard that so many times.
And one of the things it's talking about, it's proposing this new term called paradoxical grief. And it says, paradoxical grief comes with its own set of experiences. Sharing these commonalities helps bring down the walls of isolation, creating a supportive base for those grappling with paradoxical grief. Anticipation does not erase the shock, and shock doesn't wipe out the impact of the anticipation. So it's an interesting phenomena that is sort of like, it's like your internal self is butting heads with itself. And you as a therapist and me as a grief coach, our job is to give permission to hold both.
Right.
It is okay to feel these two things at the same time.
To find a place for them.
Find a place for them within you, giving yourself
find a way to cope with them,
and telling people you are not crazy for feeling this way.
No, which is the number one term every griever uses, actually. I feel like I am going crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that it doesn't matter what kind of grief. It paradoxical or this or that. I mean, no.
The relative from the extended family who just died was in fact 99. And clearly this was her life was going to be coming to an end. She was 99. We are, not built to live much beyond that age. And she went into failing health pretty rapidly. And yet, how could this be true? 2 days ago, she was telling us where to find the free coffee, right? How could this be true that she's now laying there dead? And yet it is.
I've told this before, but my friend Patty, who died. She was close to 104. And I've known her since she was 79, right? And after her mother died, so that's 78, maybe 80, for over 20 years, she said, "How do you think I'm going to die? Well, how do you think this is going to happen? And when do you think this will happen?" And blah, 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 because I have the nursing degree. And
So you should be able to look and see how we're all going to die
yeah,
and when.
yeah. I just
When's
bring
my
my little
expiration
crystal
date?
ball. Yeah, yeah. And so on the day when I returned from a trip, and I hadn't seen her like in 10 days, and I went to see her, and I realized she is in active dying process after I helped her and did a couple things. And I called the other people that needed to be with her. I said to Patty, you are finally dying, and I'm going to make sure you are as comfortable as possible. I will not let you suffer. And Patty said to me, "What? I'm not dying." I've never told you that, I guess. And she said, "I'm not dying." And all I did was smile and say, "Okay." Like I'm going to argue to be right there. And she was gone within 18 hours. And, you know, I am not the Grim Reaper, as you know, the Grim Reaper. I'm like the Happy Reaper. And I show up with a magic wand with rainbow, and I have
a little bit of glitter.
A little bit of glitter. I know, biodegradable. I will tell you that. And, you know, that's also paradoxical grief. It's you say something very plainly, and the recipient of that information denies that that's happening.
That that's the reality. Yep.
That's the reality. And I know that of both people who are dying and people that are going to grieve after the person dies. They don't want
this to happen, which is the reality for most of us. Who, I mean, honestly, there are not many people we offer up on a platter to say it's okay, you can go. Right now, I have seen a few of those, but you know, most of the time we don't want that to happen.
No,
but our bodies have for certain expiration moments, and there are times that our bodies just can't keep doing it.
Exactly. And also sometimes the person who is suffering that through either treatment or non-treatment, the person, they say, "I'm done." And then people get mad. So there you go.
And that's part of the paradoxical as well. We do have people who say, I'm just not going to do any more treatment. I'm going off dialysis. But you could stay here a lot longer on dialysis, but I don't like dialysis. I don't, it doesn't feel good. I'm tied to this machine. I know what's coming. I've talked about it. I'm ready. And there's that. But
and then there's religion, not spiritual, religious people that say, it's like a sporting event. That's how it feels like me. We're praying for a miracle. Go. If it was me, go, Deb. You can do it. You can make that touchdown. And I'm like, that ain't happening.
That's when I was working for hospice, would say the miracle is going to be a peaceful transition. And so we can certainly pray for that miracle.
Exactly.
Turn it around.
Just
because that is the best way to look at it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Not a clinical opinion, personal opinion.
And, when I'm in a hospice role, I
Mhm.
have to really pay attention. It's sort of like a combination hospice chaplain type role.
Right.
And my opinion doesn't matter. What matters is, what are you thinking and how can I best support you? And in the case of Patty, or even the case of my own relatives, when they said, why did you tell your mother the truth? Why didn't you just let her? And I said, I did what my mom would want. Or with Patty, when she's denying that she's dying, even though she's talked about it with me for all those years, you know
Mhm.
what? I didn't say anything. I just said, okay.
I'm going to take all of this with me. I'm speaking to the chaplains at our local Veterans Administration hospital next week.
Yes.
So this is going to go with me and be part of that discussion.
Yeah.
So thank you. And I hope this will be part of the discussion at your houses this week. And for those who are listening
Mhm.
afterward online or on Spotify or on all the
Mhm.
places that the podcast goes, we hope that this becomes part of your discussion so that you can become more comfortable and more familiar with what happens with grief and loss.
Right. Just thinking of everybody that is going through this now, going through some part of grief, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if your parents or parents died 20, 30 years ago. You know what? You still at times are going to feel like an orphan and you're the top of the food chain. That's really, yes, welcome to the club.
Yep.
Yeah. And,
Our whole household.
or,
Mhm.
or perhaps you're going through that right now and you just happen to tune in, and our hearts are with you. You can reach Jill or I through this website and through Facebook, and our hearts
Please
are
reach
with
out
you.
if you need us. We'll
Yeah.
see you next Friday, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye.